Speaking of the Padres, the Pods have had just some terrible news in terms of, longtime members of the family. Rob Piccolo passing away not long ago, and Kevin Towers yesterday, news we reported on this program, finally succumbed to his long battle with cancer and left us way too soon at the age of 56. KT was beloved. You grew up with the guy in Oregon, a guy who touched a lot of people in baseball. I spent a lot of time around him in San Diego, and he was one of the good guys, man. Believe us when we tell you he was one of the good guys.
The one thing we were talking about this morning, we were talking about KT a little bit, was Didi Gregorius. When he was in Arizona, I remember him saying, this guy's the next Jeter.
Yeah.
And he just got him from Cincinnati, and there were a couple clubs he was fighting for, and Didi was the guy he wanted. It was like, come on, man, seriously?
Yeah.
And I remember calling Brandon Phillips and saying, Brandon at that time was just starting a second for the Reds, and said, hey, tell me about this kid Didi Gregorius. And he said, best hands I've ever seen. This kid's going to be a star. So he and KT were the only believers before. Now, obviously, KT put his neck out there being the general manager.
Yeah, and you know
that
what?
was quite a projection.
The beauty of Kevin is not only did he hit on guys like Didi Gregorius, but when he missed, and he missed, he would tell you all about it. He owned his mistakes, and one of his philosophies as a GM was, if you make a mistake as the GM and you long-term the wrong guy or you trade for the wrong guy, get him out of there as soon as you can. And I don't want to name names because there are current players who he had discussed that in regards to that he felt like they were a mistake. He shipped them out. He was always looking at the next day.
Yeah.
And, again, beloved and passing yesterday at the age of 56. Brian Kenny has more on the life and career of one of the game's all-time good guys.
Few general managers have had the success and the longevity that Kevin Towers experienced during his nearly two-decade run.
I think Kevin Towers is a very good GM. They got fortunate to get him. He did a good job of restocking a very good ball club.
As a GM, Towers built playoff-caliber teams for two different franchises and made one World Series appearance.
And the Padres drape the National League flag around their shoulders for 1998. Behold, Doctor!
Kevin Towers was born in Oregon in 1961, and 21 years later, he was selected first overall by the San Diego Padres in the June secondary phase of the draft. He pitched for parts of 8 seasons in the minors before transitioning to the Padres' director of scouting in 1993. By November of 1995, Towers was named the new general manager of the Padres at the age of 34. In his first season on the job, San Diego won the National League West crown, the franchise's first in over a decade.
That's it. Curtis strikes out, and the San Diego Padres are the champs of the NL West.
After a disappointing 1997 campaign, Towers realized the Padres needed to bolster their pitching staff in order to compete in the National League, and they did just that.
In the winter of '97, we went out and acquired Kevin Brown. We felt, the piece that we were missing was really an ace, hired gun, a frontline type starter.
Struck him out in the dirt. 16 strikeouts for Kevin Brown.
We expected to win each and every night, and we knew going in we were going to be good. We didn't know really how good we'd be, but we felt we were the team to beat.
Towers was right. The Padres marched their way through the National League, capturing the franchise's first pennant in 14 years.
Long run for Finley. The Padres are going to the 1998 World Series.
The 1998 season was the crowning achievement of Towers' career, although they fell short to a 114-win Yankee club in the World Series. Kevin Towers enjoyed continued success in San Diego as the Padres had multiple postseason appearances under his watch.
For the first time in franchise history, the San Diego Padres will go to the playoffs in back-to-back years.
Towers' run in San Diego ultimately came to an end in 2009, but a little over a year later, the Diamondbacks hired him to serve as their GM before the 2011 season.
We have all the tools necessary. We got a great coaching staff, and Kevin Towers definitely brought in the pieces that we feel we needed, and all we have to do is just go out and execute.
And the Diamondbacks won the NL West in Towers' first year at the helm.
The Diamondbacks are the National League Western Division champions in the year 2011.
Towers would remain in Arizona through the 2014 season. In all, his resume includes 18 years as a general manager, 5 division crowns, and a National League pennant. His impact and success as a general manager will not be forgotten.
Man, we'll miss him. And Ken Rosenthal has written a terrific tribute to Kevin Towers that you can read on theathletic.com. And, Kenny, I want to ask you about the story that you opened the piece with, and a story that I think best personifies the love and respect that Kevin cultivated among his peers.
Right, Matt. It was a year ago at this time. The Super Bowl was coming up on a Sunday, just as it is right now, and Theo Epstein, who was really close with Kevin Towers, was his protege in San Diego when he just started out in baseball, kind of got the idea, along with Kevin's wife, to have a get-together. Kevin had been diagnosed a few months before with an aggressive form of thyroid cancer, wasn't doing great, but his friends wanted to see him. So this is the group that went out to the San Diego area to be at the home of Kevin's agent, Barry Axelrod. Theo Epstein, Brian Cashman, Bud Black, Kirk Gibson, and Kevin's longtime assistant GM in San Diego, Fred Ullman Jr. It's quite an eclectic group, quite a group of different baseball people, but they were all there because they loved Kevin so much. And I asked each of them yesterday about that day, because I was aware of it for a couple of months. I had heard about it, and they all remember it so vividly. The other guy who should have been there just couldn't make it out of Florida. He was there at the time, was Bruce Bochy. So these were a few of Kevin's former managers, a few of his rivals. He had worked for Cashman at one time. He had employed Theo earlier in Theo's career. And yet these people all had so much love and respect for Kevin. They all wanted to be with him and share that day. And Fred Ullman Jr., the assistant GM of the Padres, told me if we could have had 500 people and sent 500 invites, we would have had 500 people there. But they wanted to keep the group small. And in doing this story, Theo Epstein gave me a quote that really stood out to me more than anything else in the story, and we'll talk about it right here. Here's what Theo said. There are so many instances in this game where people look to squeeze every last bit of value out of a transaction or every last bit of self-interest out of an interaction. KT was the opposite. He was never that way. Whether it was how he treated people he just met, friends, or how he approached his job, he wanted other people to be happy too. He wanted things to be fair. He didn't look to extract every last ounce of self-interest. That's how he approached doing his job. That's how he approached life. It's what made him so universally loved. Who wouldn't want to be around someone like that? For me, that summed up Kevin Towers as well as I've ever heard Kevin summed up. He was a guy that in today's game, as a GM, would stand out even more than he did then. He was the gunslinger. He was a guy who always had a smile on his face. He wasn't worried about every moment, every day, every piece of value in each player. He just had a different outlook. He also was an excellent judge of pitching, just one of the great people all of us have ever known. And that story, as sad as it was to write, was a labor of love because we all love Kevin.
Yep, man, a great story. The quote by Theo is spot on, and again, you can read that at theathletic.com. Kenny, thank you. Yeah, really sad passing. 56 years old, so Kevin Towers leaves us far too soon. Our condolences, of course, to his wife, Kelly, his family, the extended Padres and Diamondbacks families as well.